This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
I want to say a big thank you to all of you all over the world. I get letters and questions and things. People are catching on and sharing the fact that we do this show, and I try to bring on really good guests. Tonight is going to be no exception. I want to say that last week's show with Barry Greenwood was truly exceptional, and I am always honored to have the caliber of people on the show that I do. I will be at the UFO Congress coming up here in 2 weeks, and if you are in the Phoenix area, please come to the conference. It really is the most exceptional conference in the world. There will be wonderful speakers there. Colonel Halt will be speaking, Erling Strand from Heshdal in Norway, who has contributed a great deal to current research. We also have Ted Rowe, who has been on the show before, who is the executive director of NARCAP and the executive director of the International Association of UAP Research. I will be speaking, and then my guest tonight will be speaking. We had a delightful conversation this week, and I hope to have a few more coming up pretty quick. We talked about consciousness and the need to make change in this field and to push research into a direction that is not nuts and bolts. Dr. Robert Davis understands that more than anyone, and he has contributed a great amount to the field. He is an internationally recognized scientist in the field and has served as a professor at the State University of New York for over 30 years. He graduated with a BA and an MA from the City University of New York and with a PhD in neuroscience from Ohio State. He has published over 40 articles in scholarly journals, lectured at national and international conferences, including the one coming up here in 2 weeks. He was awarded several major grants by the National Science Foundation and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health to fund research in neurosciences. His research into this realm of inquiry, the UFO phenomenon, convinced him that this remains unresolved and that we really need to push the boundaries. He is a board of directors for the research team, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, or FREE. This is a great organization. I am thrilled to be learning about it tonight, but I really feel this is where we need to go. Dr. Davis wrote a book called The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe? And we're going to ask him that right now. Thank you for being here. And thanks for talking to me this week. That was really fun.
Oh, it's a pleasure speaking with like-minded souls. And thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, thank you. And this is, to me, especially this time in my life and where I feel research has gone, I mean, it's stagnant, and we know that. And we have, unfortunately, a very large contingent of the nuts and bolts people that are waiting for a single case and will not admit anything or look in a different direction until the saucer has crashed on the White House lawn. But you know, through your work with FREE and work on your own, that is not where we need to go.
I agree. We're not going to make any meaningful advance in terms of understanding what governs and regulates this perplexing mystery called unidentified flying objects, whatever that means, and the associated intelligence with these objects. I believe they do exist. What it is, where it's from, What objective they may have, is certainly up for debate and speculation. But the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, which you mentioned, the acronym is FREE, has been engaged in the first comprehensive study on individuals who have these kind of contact experiences with this phenomenon. And we have been involved over the past 2 years or so conducting a quantitative and qualitative study with over 3,000 people from over 100 countries, and we've addressed numerous topic areas that go way beyond the so-called nuts and bolts, which include, yes, the physical and the nuts and bolts, but the psychological, the paranormal, the perceptual, and psycho-spiritual aspects of the phenomena. In other words, the impact that the experience had on the individual is meaningful and profound, and is often largely ignored by the general ufology community. There has been some studies done in this area, but certainly much more needs to be done, as you expressed very clearly.
Absolutely. And I have to say that the people that you have working with you, I mean, Kathleen Martin, who I just think the world of her, and especially being a woman who's done a lot of work in this field against the good old boys club. It's been a challenge, but especially, with this abduction experiencer research, because there is such a pushback, which I've never understood in mainstream ufology. Why do you think people have a hard time dealing with this?
It's hard to say. It's a good question, but it's difficult to answer. I think everybody is more left brain in nature and still tries to connect the dots with physical attributes or aspects of the phenomenon, and trying to observe lights in the sky that are not identifiable, trying to make a conclusion regarding alien abductions that may or may not be true, because you don't have any tangible, irrefutable evidence to support the contention of many thousands, if not millions, of individuals worldwide that they are interacting at some level with non-human intelligence that may or may not be associated with the UFO. In fact, we found that only about 35% of our 3,000 subjects interacted with a form of intelligence that was not associated with a UFO. In other words, grays or reptilians or insectoids, so to speak, the classic non-human intelligences that are commonly described, are seen in the bedroom, are seen on a highway, and then there's missing time and other associated paranormal activity like telepathic communication, and a lot of other paradoxical aspects of the phenomenon that leaves the individual beyond confused and awestruck, and with a profound, transformative experience that is long-lasting and deep. And they try to obviously put some meaning and context to an experience that defies logical explanation and their ego. So there is inner conflict, obviously, but I hope to certainly have time to get into our study. And by the way, I'd like to mention that Dr. Edgar Mitchell was one of the co-founders of FREE. He was a former, he passed away about a year and a half ago, as a former astronaut, sixth person to walk on the moon, and founder of the Institute for Noetic Sciences, and co-founded FREE. Dr. Rudy Shields is an astrophysicist at Harvard University. Ray Hernandez, an attorney, is another co-founder, along with Mary Rodwell, a leading researcher in UFOs and the paranormal. Remarkable individual. Among others, like Barbara Mango, who has a PhD in metaphysics, Dr. John Climo, a noted psychologist, on and on. We have many scientists as non-scientists as part of FREE conducting research. But we have a shared mission and governance structure, and we do believe that we have very important information that doesn't necessarily answer all the questions associated with this phenomenon, of course, but it does, I think, help to inform others and to build upon our research in various ways.
And when I look at right now I'm looking at the people that are contributing, and you mentioned all of these really impressive, dedicated people, and also I want to mention Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who actually I had the pleasure of speaking with, and he did a past life reading for me. And I mean, he is amazing. I mean,
Yes.
he sent me a lot of information, and he was truly the first person, from my understanding, to really delve into abduction research.
Yeah, he's a true pioneer in the field. He's no longer active with Free, but he was a member from the very beginning, and he's advancing in age, and I have a great deal of respect for him, as I do all members of the organization. But we're just beginning, and we have already had 2 papers accepted in the Journal of Consciousness Studies and the Journal of Scientific Exploration, which should be coming out sometime later this year. And again, as you mentioned, I will also be presenting some of our results at the UFO Congress meeting in Phoenix. I believe it's February 14th. And the thing is this. We are not a nuts and bolts ufology organization. We are actually more involved with the concept of consciousness than anything else. It just so happens that UFOs seem to interact with an individual's awareness, perception of reality, which apparently is altered in some way, somehow, by such interaction. We can only speculate as to why. But ufologists in general, and there are exceptions, but in general, obviously are committed to the nuts and bolts, so to speak, a commonly used phrase, and try to seek the smoking gun, obviously, by trying to utilize retrospective analysis of Roswell and the Rendlesham Forest incident, Phoenix Lights. We can go on and on. I don't know what we're looking for. The phenomenon is real. There's no question about it. You're not going to find a smoking gun
Exactly.
by continue. I'm glad you agree, and I enjoyed our conversation, and I'm pleased that we're on the same page. So retrospective analysis is interesting. It's entertaining. It is informative. We do learn about the phenomenon in unique ways, but it's just the skin on an apple, so to speak. We got to get to the core or heart of the matter if we possibly can. Unfortunately, we don't have the necessary scientific principles and research methodology to adequately apply in order to measure, quantify, qualify in a way what the phenomenon is all about. And again, Free does not claim to have the answer. We're however, trying to provide some additional insights about the phenomenon by focusing more on the phenomenological aspects of the phenomena. In other words, again, trying to understand the essence that the contact experience has on the individual who interacts with not only a physical UFO, but also some form of intelligence. Oftentimes it's a tall or short gray, but surprisingly, in our study, one of the most common types of beings that are often reported is human-looking, right up there with the grays, followed by the other noted types of beings that are commonly described in the literature, from the reptilians, of course, to the hybrids, insectoids, energy beings. But the human-looking beings, they look very human-like, but not exactly. There are slight differences, but never. I think the literature describes them as Nordic types.
Right.
But nevertheless, that's all well and good. But what impact does this have? Interestingly, it has a very large positive psychospiritual transformation. And that's probably the most significant aspect of the results that we are finding thus far in a large population of over 3,000 individuals who claim, by the way, to have conscious explicit memory of that contact experience. Not lucid dreaming, not hypnotic regression, not through mystical meditation or ayahuasca, etc. That's what they report. And here again, this is anecdotal evidence but they express their experience with such consistency and conviction. In other words, the similarity of the responses among these individuals who participated in our quantitative survey, which comprised 600 questions and addressed many different topic areas, such as the nature of the intelligence, physical experiences with this intelligence, the psychological, again, spiritual aspects of the experience, among many others. These topic areas have never been explored in any great detail or in a comprehensive fashion. There have been a few studies done. You mentioned Kathleen Martin. I have great respect for her, and she did a study not long ago with Denise Stoner, and I give them a lot of credit for exploring this phenomenon in that way. But they only used, I think, less than 100 subjects, maybe 50 questions. And what we're doing, again, is utilizing thousands of individuals who have conscious recall, and who who not only respond to our quantitative surveys of 600 questions, but also participate in our qualitative phases. In other words, they also responded to 60 open-ended questions describing, in other words, their experience in sufficient detail, and we are now analyzing that. Subsequent to that analysis, we're going to then conduct in-depth, formal, structured interviews with approximately 200 of these individuals. So it's a combined quantitative and qualitative research paradigm. And we have, again, finished the quantitative phase, and that's what I'll be talking about at the Congress and tonight.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear you speak. This is going to be fun, and to meet you and all of this. This is wonderful. And I think that all of us who get into this field, people that are listening tonight, I mean, we've all had personal experiences, and we're trying to come to terms with those. And it is really important to have an organization like Free doing such good work. And I know you do. I actually did take the experiencer survey, and I will say that it is the questions, and I encourage people out there who are listening that have had these experiences to go check this out and to read the wonderful articles, because you have put out a lot of information. And to me, that's what's missing from a lot of the other UFO organizations who have really put out nothing, I mean, with regards to current research and things.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. We do have many leading scientists as part of Free, and thus they have certainly drafted research papers on various topics that pertain to consciousness, quantum hologram, a theory of consciousness, which might interrelate with this phenomenon. And that's, if we had to make a guess as to what might be going on here, it's a multidimensional possible phenomenon that may be explained by Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quantum hologram theory of consciousness. And many leading physicists have ascribed to that theory as an explanation for many different aspects of matter and consciousness. But one of the most significant findings is that over 85% of our population claim to have similar positive transformations following their experience. Initially, of course, it is a horrifying experience. It's certainly unique in more than one way. That's going to scare any sane individual. But most of these individuals have interactions more than once. And over time, they report a strong increase in many psychospiritual ways, which are unique in the sense that they, for some reason, have greater insight into the problems of other people. They have an understanding, they say, what life is all about. That they're convinced that there is life after death now. And people who are believed in organized religion give it up and become more spiritual. they have a less interest in obtaining wealth and material things. They can love others in an impersonal way, have more empathy, sympathy, compassion for others. They become, in other words, I guess, more humane, more whole as a person. So when I read all this, and it's not 100% of the population, but the vast majority are saying the same things. And this is what gets me. In other words, about 81% say that their experiences from a UFO encounter and associated non-human intelligence resulted in a significant positive effect on changing their life. Now, why? It's a simple yet elusive question. Why? Only I think it was 4% said it was highly negative and 7% said it was slightly negative. I mean, that's obviously a small minority out of over 3,000 people. The numbers of people, the similarity of the results speak volumes. And thus, we need to encourage other researchers to try to authenticate, validate our research, and see what other types of paradigms reveal. And if we see the same kinds of effects, then that certainly enhances the validity of our results. But it is most curious, to say the least.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think that it is very, very important that you are looking at all of these different aspects. I think another big mistake that we make in ufology is to throw out the paranormal and some of these other things, because I believe it's all connected. And I think the research that you are doing would think, that you would feel that way as well, that the results would be fairly clear. But I want to talk about that a little bit more when we get back, and I want to talk about some of the commonalities that experiencers have, the shared traits, and then a little bit, I want to find out more about you and why you got into this. So it's going to be a great night. I have no doubt. And I want to just tell everyone, you can go to Dr. Robert Davis's website, which is the UFOphenomenon.com. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. We are going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Within the ethers of reality, there sits a bridge, a hot spot between what we see and what we don't see.
Testing, can you hear me?
Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, join Becky Vickers on Bridging the Paranormal as she interviews paranormal investigators from around the world and explores how the shadows of the past meet the present.
Let's begin.
Bridging the Paranormal will take you to some of the most haunted places in the world in search of proof that the dead still walk among us.
I see dead people.
Becky Vickers' Southern charm will have you believing in the unbelievable.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Live Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern, Bridging the Paranormal.
Bridging the Paranormal.
Hosted by Becky Vickers. Paranormal talk about the dark side, but with a lighter side touch. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. It's time to believe. Believe in the unbelievable.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Each week, join Patrick Phillips as he takes you inside Hollywood. In-depth celebrity interviews, the very latest entertainment news, and more. Patrick Phillips hosts Pop Culture Tonight.
Join me Thursdays at 1 p.m. right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I am happy to be here, and I want to just say hello to everyone in the chat room tonight. Northern UFOs, UFO author, Susan, Jeff, all of my friends are there and listening and asking good questions. I appreciate you spending your Friday night here listening to KCOR. Tina Marie, my wonderful producer, will be up after the show, and she will be doing restricted airspace followed by hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven. So it's going to be a great night of ladies on KCOR. I am getting ready to go to UFO Congress in 2 weeks, where I will be meeting for the first time my guest this evening, Dr. Robert Davis, who is an internationally recognized scientist, and he also explores the UFO phenomenon. He has a book out, his latest book, The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe? We will talk about that in a little bit, but when we went to break, we were talking about free and experiencers and some of the commonalities. So let's pick up where we left off.
Well, what really moves me from the data, again, which is a matter of controversy, speculation, and debate, is that the reported positive transformative outcomes are largely responsible for the finding that 83% out of 1,200 respondents reported that they didn't want their contact experiences to end. Now think about that. 83% of over 1,200 people wanted to continue to have, I hate to use the term alien abductions, let's call it a contact experience with non-human intelligence, which may or may not have been associated with a UFO, okay? Not all cases were strictly nuts and bolts UFOs. Sometimes people, again, just saw grays or reptilian, human-looking type beings in their home or elsewhere. But the point is, only about 10% thought that these beings were bad, negative creatures of some type. In fact, over 60% said they received help from them. Even medical healing, many had reported. And over 70% even said that they experienced what they called expanded consciousness when they were in their presence. And about 2/3 perceive unconditional love from these beings. Now, here again, the majority and consistency of these responses tend to diminish the fact that maybe these people are having a fantasy or an hallucination, a psychological aberration of some type. Fantasies and hallucinations don't result in these types of responses. They manifest in many other different ways. We don't see any evidence of that. Likewise, we wanted to utilize a standardized psychological test battery. However, it's so costly just to do in one person and so time-consuming, we simply didn't have the sufficient resources to do so. Now, here again is a need why other researchers should consider following up on our approach and screen individuals. I'm sure there is a certain percentage of the population in our study that is not, shall we say, balanced, whatever that might mean, but I'm sure many are. But the point again, by having such a high population with such similar results, diminishes that, shall we say, confounding variable that may very well be in some of the data. But we asked some other questions too that revealed something unique about the phenomenon. Like about 54%, if I recall, said yes to the question that was something like, while in this matrix-like type of reality, did you feel a sense of harmony or unity with the universe? Over half said that they did, and over 80% responded yes to the question, while in this matrix type of reality, did the reality of the multidimensional experience seem real to you? They actually report that they were somehow in another dimension. Why? They all say there's no space, there's no time. They could see 360 degrees. They had telepathic communication. They felt unconditional love. They feel that their consciousness is separated from their body. Then they have the realization or revelation that they're not only physical but also spiritual beings, and they come away from this experience reporting that. That is quite a revelation. If you suddenly woke up one morning and you said, "Aha, I'm more than just my body." Now, again, is it a delusion, hallucination? I'm not going to say definitely 100% yes or definitely 100% no, but it's unlikely, highly unlikely, given the, again, sorry for the redundancy, the large percentage in such a large population who have conscious recall, not hypnotic regression or anything. No, I'm not putting that down, but the scientific community it poo-poos any other form of consciousness rather than conscious recall. But this is why there's a consciousness-related component to the phenomenon. And you know what it reminds me most of, and I'm sure many of your listeners are saying to themselves, it sounds like people who have an NDE, a near-death experience. They say the same thing. They say the same thing. And that's remarkably interesting. And because it escapes me now, but it's something like 30%, I think, of our population base, 3,000, a little over 3,000, said they had an NDE during their life. And approximately 60% said they have out-of-body experiences. And a large percentage of these individuals who have this so-called alien abduction, terrible term, let's get rid of it, contact experience, I'm sure there's a better phrase somewhere. But the point is, they report that they're at times, yes, their body goes with them through physical objects to a physical craft, and they describe the room, the tables, the lights, the medical procedures. Yeah, we get some of that. That comes in, they collect the sperm, the eggs, the ova, genetic manipulation, they brought a baby, all that stuff that we've read about in prior books. We get some of that. Yeah, that happens, but to a much less extent than previously reported. Everybody, when they hear alien abduction, they said, "Oh, they're going to, they're going to subject you to terror, and they're going to take bodily fluids from you, and then they're going to dump you somewhere other than your home." Sometimes that happens. And who knows if the military could be behind some of this. There's a lot of conjecture about military-induced abduction experiences. I don't even want to go there. It may or may not be true. Who knows? It's unfortunate if that should be the case, but nevertheless, the similarities between individuals who have an NDE and a UFO, non-human intelligence interaction experience, is dramatically similar. And the question is, again, why? And if we consider the NDE to be a valid experience, and I, by the way, just finished a book, Life After Death, an analysis of the evidence, which will be coming out in the fall. And obviously, I talk a great deal about NDEs and OBEs, but certainly we have come to an understanding that consciousness is not the brain, or is interrelated with the brain, but exists as a separate energetic force of some type. And there's a whole range of philosophical, paranormal, parapsychological, consciousness kinds of interpretations and neurophysiologic interpretations of what consciousness is. You're going to get many different answers based on what discipline the individual comes from. Nobody really firmly understands that concept of consciousness. It's one's awareness of self or I. And maybe there isn't, maybe there is. And maybe there is life after death, maybe there isn't. But the point is this. Why are people so transformed in such similar ways despite the dissimilar experiences, UFOs and NDEs, and even out-of-body experiences? Well, if one's having an NDE, they report to be out of the body. They perceive their body lying in an unconscious suffering state. And there's a whole host of other, attributes and characteristics associated that's unique to that. But this is it. If they do come back to their body, they are a different person. If they do have a UFO experience and interact with another intelligence, they come back a different person. And it's not only unique to just those two experiences. Members of FREE believe that the quantum hologram theory of consciousness can possibly explain an interrelationship among many other types of phenomena besides UFOs and NDEs and OBEs, like mystical meditation, telepathy, non-local intuition, past life recall, just general paranormal activity, where there is a great diversity of experiences that exist within that realm alone. But the point is, if I'm trying to make sense of this, it's like a Kundalini awakening. If any of your listeners are not familiar with the term Kundalini awakening or spiritual awakening and ascension, I don't want to sound like a New Ager. Not that there's anything wrong with it, believe me.
No, but Kundalini, we talked about this the other day. Kundalini is, and it is something that I've studied. I have many, many books on Kundalini energy. And it is very palpable. It is something that can affect people. And Carl Jung had basically a Kundalini experience where he was meditating and into some of these deep mystical things. And I feel that he believes that the Kundalini moved up too quickly and that short-circuited something in his brain and caused kind of a psychotic break.
From what little I know about Kundalini experiences, it can be traumatizing to the individual. It is a type of spiritual awakening that is very, very real to those who truly have a full Kundalini awakening. And sometimes it happens too quick, too sudden. The person's personality state also plays a role in how balanced they may be after it. There's a trigger for change, in other words. The trigger for spiritual awareness can be a UFO contact experience, an NDE, and the other contact modalities that I mentioned. Mary Rodwell, a co-founder of Free, who I mentioned earlier, wrote a tremendous book on awakening, how extraterrestrial contact can transform your life. If anybody wants to read a profoundly interesting book on the topic, get that by Mary Rodwell and listen to her lectures on YouTube. Even Edgar Mitchell, who again, co-founder of Free, he described on his trip back on Apollo 14 from the moon, he said something happens to you out there. You develop a type of a global consciousness. You become dissatisfied with the world, and you have a compulsion to do something about it. And I think he used the term an interconnected euphoria. And many astronauts report similar types of effects. It's like a I don't know you can't use words to adequately capture the inner essence or feeling that you have of a awakening, a revelation, an awe-inspiring event, which obviously come in many, many different forms. UFOs just being one of many, and NDE being one of many. Flying out in space and seeing the Earth below. Can you imagine the impact of such an experience on one's self, soul? It must be remarkable to experience something like that. But maybe that's what motivated Edgar Mitchell to develop the Institute for Noetic Sciences, and then eventually Free. John Mack also, he a noted psychiatrist. I'm sure many of your listeners are well aware of John Mack, who did research on over 300 individuals who had a UFO abduction experience. And he said that there are large percentages of people who know there is an unseen world or hidden dimensions of reality. He went into this research being a skeptic. He's a leading psychiatrist from Harvard. I believe he won a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, and he endured a lot to do this.
Oh, yeah, yes. He had a fight for tenure with the administration. Eventually won after a long legal battle. But you got to respect John Mack greatly for his bravery and how he went against traditional philosophical thinking. He got it back then, and what we are seeing supports what he saw, which says something. It says that more researchers should be doing research in this area. Now, we're talking about two different phenomena here. We're talking about the physical craft, which can materialize and dematerialize, and it probably is a space-time thing going on, right? Well, we know its velocity over 12,000 miles makes right-angle turns. We get all that. That's important to know. We know that this cannot be duplicated by anything constructed from Earth. The question, of course, is where is it from? Another planet, another dimension, etc. The whole debate that goes on endlessly, with 1 million books being written every other year on the topics, with no advancement in terms of our understanding more about what governs and regulates this phenomenon, which I can say is valid. It's real. Of course it's real.
Right, exactly.
There's no question about that. If anybody thinks otherwise, do your research. Read the good books. There's a lot of nonsense out there, and try to separate the sense from the nonsense.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I think that this holds us back, and I see a lot of that attitude even in the UFO field. You go to some of these Facebook forums and people are, it's almost like they've got to prove that it's a hoax or it's a fake just to satisfy their egos. But it's that kind of attitude is holding us back from where we need to focus. We know it's real, so let's get on with it.
Oh, you're exactly right, and it obviously can be very frustrating to those who have opposing points of view. But you know what? We have to expect people are going to debunk. I encourage skepticism. I think that is healthy. Weigh evidence from all directions in all manner in order to come to a reasonable objective conclusion. I think that is the proper approach, no question. And a little bit of maybe gut instinct thrown in, but individuals who debunk, in other words, put people down on a personal level because of their beliefs in UFOs and NDEs, etc., I have no tolerance for them.
No,
I have no patience for these people. And why they behave this way, well, that's their own bag. And I don't want them in my life. And that's fine. Let them feel that way. There's always going to be that crowd. But I think most people are open-minded, certainly, more spiritual and curious about what is going on. And, getting back to the spiritual awakening, which I think is a underlying maybe essence of just coming away from any kind of experience that it can't be that leaves you confused, in awe. What just age happened to me? They're awakened for some reason. People who engage in yoga, meditation, sometimes come to this pronounced revelation. But sometimes it can even happen spontaneously. But I think the similarities, again, in the transformations that people are reporting is associated with that kind of psychospiritual ascension, shall we say.
It's so this is all fascinating, and I love it because everything that you're hitting on, there are things that I've studied and directions that I've wanted to pursue. So this is wonderful, and I have to just say, before we go to break, I want to ask a couple questions that people have asked in the chat room, and one of them is from a UFO author, and she wants to know if you could detail the salient points of the plasma UFO theory.
I talk about that briefly in my book, Plasma Ionized Gas. It exists in the atmosphere, certainly. It's a known physical substance. It's basically ball lightning that can behave in very mysterious ways and actually behave as an unexplained light in the sky that appears to give the impression of an intelligence behind it. And many UFOs are plasma-based. People will see something very strange, and sometimes it is just that. Scientists in the United States and Russia are doing a lot of research in plasma physics, and here again, that's a phenomenon that's not well understood, but it is it's not a phenomenon, it's a valid fact. The question is, some people contend that all UFOs are plasma-based, or even the beings themselves are plasma-based. But it is a form of energy that has gotten the attention of a lot of individuals, and it behaves similarly to a true, UFO that is of non-earthly origin.
And I have to just ask you and be selfish here for a moment, because my area of interest, because of my own personal sightings, are these balls of light. These, I saw a red amber sphere hovering over Utah, over the Salt Lake Valley, and subsequently spent a few months filming different variations on the same theme with these groups of lights and things. And I wonder what your take is on this, having done such good research.
Yeah, Erica, I saw those orange orbs too in Sedona, Arizona. One moved from behind another one. They remained stationary for minutes, and then they winked out. The next day, I started writing my book. What it is again up for speculation. Some people say these orbs are a form of conscious energy. Some say it is plasma-based, or some meteorological atmospheric-like phenomenon. No one really truly has a firm, irrefutable evidence to know what it is, but it is certainly perplexing, no question about it. But orbs do exist. Orbs apart from plasma do exist, that people report, because it does seem to, at least based on the contention of many people, they can consciously using their intention alone, call an orb or even a UFO, a physical craft, to a particular location. It's Dr. Stephen Greer with his CE5 project. They've been working on this kind of thing, and they contend that they can vector a UFO, so to speak, in a particular area based on the collective conscious intention of a group of people. Maybe they can. I don't know. I'd like to see it. I'd like to be part of it. And maybe it's true. But so it's another aspect of the phenomenon. And there may very well be very different types of UFOs. And we know how they range considerably in size and shape and color and form. They change shape as they move, which obviously indicates this is a much more weird advanced phenomenon, something that morphs shape from a cigar shape to a cube or a pyramid, and changes color, changes size, all of that. Obviously, they're manipulating space and time. And when people have altered perceptions during their encounters, which is a very common experience, you get the impression that they are undergoing a change in dimension or space and time in some way, which gives them the feeling that space is infinite, that there is no such thing as time, that they can see 360 degrees.
I can hear the music, and I hate to cut you off, but we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk more about this when we get back, because this is just getting good. I'm Erica Lukes here with Dr. Robert Davis. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Happy Fatopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes, and it is always wonderful to be here. I appreciate the questions in the chat room, and I know we have a couple more that I will be asking my guest this evening. This has been a fascinating hour so far. I know the next hour is going to be incredible. Dr. Robert Davis is an internationally recognized scientist and is researching conscious connections to these intelligent beings, and he works with an organization that, in my opinion, is really leading the way in research, in pushing the boundaries forward. That organization is free. We're going to talk more about that, but thank you so much for being here, and I cannot wait to meet you.
Oh, I feel the same about you. I so enjoyed our conversation the other day. It's clear to me you're not only very, very bright and lucid, but you get it. What you are saying is, at least in my opinion, right on.
Thank you.
I don't know why, but you are beyond going on the right highway. You get it. And many of the things we're talking about, consciousness and whatever that means, that's a topic of debate in and of itself. And tell me to stop to allow for questions, but let me just mention that quantum physics, the theories and some experiments within quantum physics. We don't have time or desire to get into detail about it, but it pertains to the law of entanglement, superposition, non-locality, which is like ESP, telepathy, remote viewing, and you tie that in with the anecdotal evidence from our results, as well as NDEs, OBEs, a wide range within parapsychology and other phenomena. They do suggest something similar, and that simply is, you got it, concept of consciousness. It is related to all of these phenomena. And I, to emphasize that point, we might see some relevancy to that concept based on the responses that our study population is providing with us. For instance, if I'm going to read some questions just to get the accuracy of it correct, so bear with me, please. 71% agree that the widespread occurrence of UFO experiences is part of a larger plan to promote the evolution of consciousness. 71% out of 3,057 individuals who have conscious recall of their experience. Why do almost three-quarters say yes to that? And 90% feel there is some sort of grand plan in motion that experiences are all a part of. Curious. I find it especially interesting also how it relates to some theories in quantum physics, which Freak promotes as one possible explanation for it. At least it's the only scientific theory. And let me emphasize theory. We're not saying this is the answer, but for others to also research and to validate. Non-human intelligent beings from other planets or dimensions are already among us, and 57%, in other words, claim to have contact with non-human intelligences. 84% they said they communicated with non-human intelligence, of course, telepathically, rarely vocally. 43% said they were taken and relocated to another location. 82% that say these beings can travel to both the past and the future. Why do 82% out of 3,000 plus say that?
Yes.
That's what gets me. I don't know if this is a scientific random flaw of some type. I like to see duplication by other researchers, and that's the importance of this. For others to substantiate or refute. We'd love to engage in a cordial discussion of this research. We're not saying stop what you're doing necessarily, but at least besides nuts and bolts research, which will obviously continue, and it does play a role, I think we should shift considerably more emphasis into, again, impact on the person who experiences, the essence of their experience, phenomenological research. We might be able to glean some more keen insights about the nature of the phenomenon, because we see similarities between aspects of their altered perception and concepts in quantum physics and the behavior of subatomic particles, of which we are composed of, and the psycho-spiritual transformations in such vast majority of subjects is beyond me. A very common statement in our qualitative responses from 1,206 people, this type of statement is fairly consistently said. And I'm quoting some person who had a UFO experience with a non-human intelligent being. I quote, "I am much more loving and open-minded. My belief is death is that it is a state of transformation, and no one ever dies. I do not see material wealth as important at all. I fit in less all the time with society. I cannot grasp their beliefs and ideas anymore. This has made me feel free, but also sad for the planet and humanity." Another person, quickly, "Over time, contact has made me a strong and more patient, hopefully more loving person." Another person, "I've learned we have nothing to fear. We are immortal and ongoing," etc., etc. They talk about cosmic spirituality. They talk about no fear of death. They talk about love, love, love. Consistent themes like in NDEs And a simple and elusive question for the 10th time: why? Why? The trying to connect the dots here again between these kinds of responses, if you think about why so many are saying agree to them, with concepts in quantum physics theory of consciousness, which Dr. Mitchell modified somewhat from the existing theories in quantum physics that go back, to the days of Einstein, and he talked about it being spooky action at a distance in terms of trying to explain the unusual behavior of subatomic particles that respond to human observation. I don't even want to go there. That's kind of getting a little off the topic. But the point is, for those interested, look into the law of entanglement, superposition, and how mental intuition, consciousness, observation of subatomic particles can actually exert an influence over its behavior. There's so much more that, again, Einstein considered to be spooky action at a distance. He didn't have an answer for it. I think with Nikola Tesla, I can't remember the exact quote, but he's in the league of Einstein, I think, as most people are well aware. He said something to the effect that if science for one day would exert their focus on the paranormal, that they will uncover more knowledge in that way about reality than any other, current ongoing research in science. He had some insights there. He saw, I think, some truth to unexplained events. And these unexplained events have been going on probably since we morphed out of the primordial soup, if we did in fact come from such soup. But this aspect of consciousness is poorly understood, hotly debated, and everybody has a different take on it. But it enters into the picture here. The phenomenon is linked with consciousness, as is the quantum theory of consciousness. And I could look at these statistics and these qualitative remarks by individuals, and I tell you, it looks like I'm reading a book on near-death experiences. In some ways, there are differences without question, unique to the phenomenon itself, and I agree that the phenomenon does have a physical component to it. That's another phenomenon in and of itself. We're actually talking about two different phenomena. When we talk about ufology, we got to change that term as well. I don't know what.
Yes, we do. I've been brainstorming with a couple of my colleagues. Yes, we need to change it.
But that's the brand, and that's another 5 years of debate, and articles and books,
Well, you know what though? Not if we have anything to say about it, and I think we're talking in 2 weeks at UFO Congress.
True. It's a matter of finding like-minded souls. And in my mind, you are certainly one of them. I'm very, very impressed with your knowledge and all you do. Having people besides me, talk about the diverse range of topics in this area, not only ufology. Again, quantum theory of consciousness considers that many of these paranormal events are interrelated. And that's why we see that component of consciousness being a component of just about every one of them. Even ESP, remote viewing. This has been proven. This is real.
Absolutely.
Most people don't have the skill, but it's possible. It's achievable. Some people can remote view. So what are we talking about? You're not using your ordinary senses to perceive something at a distance. That's non-locality. That's quantum physics. That's the behavior of subatomic particles do that kind of stuff. So here again, when people have these unusual kind of experience with UFOs, they behave like that. They behave like subatomic particles. Now they can move through solid objects. Now they feel a consciousness and communicate with another being via nonverbal communication. We see parallels. The problem is we don't have the scientific principles or methodology to prove any of this conclusively. We only rely primarily on anecdotal evidence. To some, that will be convincing. To most scientists, it's science fiction, and let's put it on HBO at 11 o'clock at night. This has to be taken more seriously by the scientific community. I'm not the first one to say this, obviously, and there are many fine scientists in ufology. I'm not trying to dismiss that. I have great respect for many ufologists. And nevertheless, they made tremendous contributions and should be applauded for their efforts. I give you great credit, but I think you should also recognize, despite all that there is another aspect to the phenomenon that needs to be seriously studied. And people who are initially awestruck and transformed by the experience needs greater support. We must give more resources somehow, or at least educate more the psychological community that there are thousands, if not millions, of individuals who experience this kind of thing and how to deal with them. Because most people have this experience. Hey, guess what? This happened to me yesterday. You think I tell you what happened to me? I'd consider a personal matter. I think we all agree. Even people with NDEs will not outwardly share it just with anybody. Why don't we take calls? Do you have any questions from the audience?
You know what we do, and I want to ask you a question, but
sure.
Actually a few, and then and then I will quit being selfish and ask a couple of the questions in the chat room. But I want to know what is the timeline of how an experiencer has events? At what age do they start? How do they usually manifest? And then how does it progress?
We are analyzing that right now. Dr. John Klimo is a leading psychologist that wrote books on channeling, among other aspects of psychology, and member of FREE. He's analyzing the qualitative responses from over 1,000 people. The open-ended question. That's a heck of a lot of stuff, and a few of us did some of the analysis. He's trying to synthesize it all. Excellent question. It's more common than not that people are continuously abducted. I think prior research has pretty much documented that. It's unusual for somebody at the age of 82 to suddenly be abducted for the first time, unless they don't recall. I hate that term, abducted, but there's some kind of merging of consciousnesses. Who the heck knows? But nevertheless, it runs in families. And we have many responses to questions that pertain to contact with family members for that reason alone, because it has been substantiated that members of a family, for some reason, are often taken multiple times. Over 50% said they've been abducted more than 5 times. Some people more than 10 times. Many people can't even remember that they had an abduction. Maybe it happens to us every night. Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
I don't, nothing will surprise me anymore, it seems, based on the data. And I've been doing analytical scientific research for almost 40 years, all the left brain stuff. And then I'm hit with this kind of research, and I'm scratching my curiosity mind, My right brain is suddenly awakening.
Oh, dear.
What the heck is going on? This doesn't make sense from a neuroscientific perspective. Yes. But, I've always been interested in UFOs, like millions of people. And most people probably will remain in the UFO closet, and for obvious and good reason. Many academicians are not going to share their openness about their belief in this. But nevertheless, for fear of ridicule, obviously. But the interrelationship between the phenomena, concepts in quantum physics, the Kundalini experiences, psychospirituality, begs for further research. And as far as I know, we do it a little bit in this area and this area and this area. Nobody brings it all together, if at all possible, to connect the dots, because there are so many interrelationships. And I apologize to your audience if I'm being repetitious, but
no, you're not.
Trying to express it in a different way. There's such a unique interrelationship among many of these kinds of phenomena that some people have looked at but we need to engage the multidisciplinary approach using scientists from both the physical, social scientists, psychologists, of course, sociologists, non-scientists, experiencers, et cetera, with proper funding. That's the magic word, too.
Wouldn't that be great?
Focus. Yeah, I mean, come up with a research paradigm, an organization, frees a mini version of it. We need help. We need more funding. We need more, fiscal and human resources to do our job in a more expeditious way. But our objective, I think, is being met as far as we're concerned, given our limited resources. But here again, the most important thing is to hopefully stimulate research on the part of others who might look at our research and say, hey, you know something, it sparks my curiosity. I have some free time. Maybe I'll go do something in this direction.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have done such important things. And I really, to me, when I look at the website, experiencer.org, all of the articles, all of everything that is there, the survey, I mean, it is exceptional. And you can tell that this is going to change the paradigm. This will shift the paradigm. And this is what we need. We haven't seen this from other current time organizations. And I really feel that a change is going to be made pretty quickly in the way we address this field. And I think, we can't keep hanging on to the fact that, we're looking for the Holy Grail. That's not going to happen. If we don't have that with the data, which I always say, you've got 60 years of data, you can't make those connections, then I'm sorry, but step out of the way so people can.
You put it beautifully.
That was a little spicy too.
I agree. You speak from the heart, and that's what it's about. And you're there. I had such a stimulating discussion with you on this and other things. It's remarkable. I'm very impressed with how you approach this phenomenon as well as others. You have an extraordinary show. But what's the latest stats? 60 billion habitable exoplanets in our galaxy, and 2 trillion, I think, something like that. 2 trillion galaxies in the universe that's observable, let alone not observable. Yeah, obviously, it's 100% certainty. We're not alone. All exobiologists, astrophysicists, they know that. That's not a debate. And guess what? From what I can see, some form of intelligence is coming here. You know what? It may not even be from one of these exoplanets. It may very well be an intelligence that coexisted on our planet ever since we evolved. Who the heck knows?
I mean, honestly, that's kind of where I am leaning. I mean, I believe that when we look back at the historical, we look back at indigenous cultures, they're depicting the same things in specific places. And this goes back thousands of years. And I think that we have to ask ourselves, is this something that we haven't had the capacity to fully understand? Is this, there's so many questions that we have. And I think that there are also other components. Is this interdimensional? Is there something extraterrestrial? My gosh, I think that we need to leave it open to everything and not just jump to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. But this is a multifaceted thing.
You're exactly right, and for the most part, the general mainstream ufology does accept, yes, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Many more, I think, are moving to the dimensional theory. Many, like Grant Cameron, I forget a few others, are moving into the consciousness realm, agreeing with Free. Grant Cameron, obviously a noted leading ufologist, have great respect for him. He joined Free as an advisor, and the thing is, there could simply be another form of energy coexisting with us that happens to be intelligent, and for some reason is interacting with us. The point is, anything is possible. We don't have sufficient evidence to prove one thing or another. We're speculating here, and that's great. It's stimulating to me to speculate.
And I have sorry, I just want to throw in here that I think that, when we look at some of these UFOs, the anomalous light phenomena that is seen repeatedly over nuclear installations and Dugway Proving Ground in my home state, I mean, you have to wonder, is this a life form that has been here that is protecting the planet? Because this is their home. I don't know. I mean, this is speculation, but there's so many places to go.
There is some, and that's the fun of it. I find that exciting. That's my form of entertainment than watching reruns of, some sitcom on TV. It's great to contemplate this. It's wonderful. It is frustrating because we don't have the scientific principles to apply and the methods to use to derive the answers right now at the present time. Maybe somebody does, and they're keeping it a secret. Maybe the military intelligence, all the theories out there of who knows. Maybe one person does have the answer, but they're not stepping up. Who the heck knows? Who the heck cares?
Maybe it's Bigelow. I think Bigelow might have the answers.
It's Skinwalker Ranch. Indeed. Look, all I can say with absolute certainty, something is going on that is extraordinary, and we need to focus more attention to it. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, a noted author of 65-plus books, she gave a talk with me at a conference in Australia just 2 weeks ago in Byron Bay, Afterlife Conference and UFO conference. She ascribes to the jinn theory.
We've got to talk about
positive.
Absolutely, we got to talk about that because we've got to go to break. I could just see Tina Marie sending me the signals, but we will talk about that. I'm Erica Lukes here with Dr. Robert Davis. We will take a break. We will be back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Woven throughout the universe are keys to a hidden message, awaiting a voice that can decipher their coded meaning, a cosmic connection to the cosmos. Tune in to the KCOR Digital Radio Network at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern for Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection with astrologers Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard. Your weekly astrology reading is but a phone call away. So call Cosmic Connection Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and get your free reading today. Cosmic Connection with Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird, too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? Take a ride. Take a ride.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. As always, I'm happy to be here, and I am having a great conversation. I hope you all are enjoying listening to this, because this is really where we need to go. We need to focus on a different take and push the boundaries, and we need to stop entering into this with bias. I think that really inhibits us. My guest tonight is going to be speaking at UFO Congress with me, and I am looking forward to meeting him. He's written a book called The UFO Phenomenon, and you can go to the ufophenomenon.com to read about him, to read articles that he has written, to get the book. He is incredible. Dr. Robert Davis is an internationally recognized scientist in the field and does considerable work for FREE, which is an organization dedicated to extraterrestrial encounters and research and scientific exploration. So welcome back. And I'd have to just say that I could probably talk to you. Well, I know I could for the next 2 days, and I would be I'm still wanting to ask more questions.
Well, you're going to cover dinner then, okay?
Okay. All right,
okay.
then. And
it's a pleasure.
I have to ask you, we've got a few questions in chat, but I want to ask you about the negative aspect of this. And you said that with all of the research, all of the surveys that you have conducted and analyzed, that there's very, what was it, 4 or 5% that was negative?
Yeah, it was less than 10%. Said it had a negative effect on the quality of their life from that experience onward. And, well, it obviously does affect people in a negative way. All the more reason why the medical psychological community needs to be aware that for some reason people have this terrifying reaction, which obviously is to be expected, certainly. But many people say, here again, they adapt to the experience. They are having terrible fear. They're living in a certain kind of world. I'm not sure if it's psychotic or it's real or somewhere in between. But the consistency of their responses suggests that, that they're saying it with conviction and some degree of credibility. How to interpret it is another issue. But here again, they do report that for many years they suffer and then eventually have love for these beings. But it's a process. It's an adaptation. It's like a shock to the system that doesn't cure itself overnight or with a couple of aspirin or Xanax, and they go to physicians, certainly in bewilderment, psychologists, etc. And obviously they're misdiagnosed and mistreated. So I think MUFON might have some support mechanism for experiencers. Free does. I think there are some groups. I'm not very aware of them, but we need more of them. And not only research, we need to expand the level of support for contact experiencers, regardless of what it is, what the source is, NDEs or whatever. But here again, some people have terrible experiences, and again, the majority, most of them do initially. But these aspects of the experience, which we can explain, of course, you combine that with the experiments in non-local intuition at many leading universities like Stanford, Princeton University with the Global Consciousness Project, Stanford University, Russell Targ's work in parapsychology, remote viewing. It's remarkable. Dean Radin, Tiller, Puthoff and Targ, Nelson, the Global Consciousness Project. Remarkable research that emphasizes that consciousness can affect physical matter. I mean, that's the basic conclusion. That I can provide great details of it. My next book obviously has that information if people wish it, and you can certainly find it in other books too. The point is that there's a very compelling evidence that ESP, remote viewing, I think we all understand, is valid from a scientific perspective. And the public should recognize that we have capabilities, some people more than others, that might be able to be developed and manifested. I was just in Australia, as I mentioned earlier. I met a woman, and she says she's able to channel energy from some other dimension, cosmic consciousness. I don't know where. I don't see it, but she can channel it. And I saw her have induced physical effects on individuals in a room, and they swear they could not control their facial twitching, their head turning, their coughing, etc., etc. And all of them were behaving in various different ways for some reason. One person was on the floor crying. Like, what is it? Is this maybe a form of hypnosis? I don't know, but it didn't behave like a hypnosis. And people don't do that under hypnosis unless you're instructed to do so. She didn't do that. You're conscious. You're well aware, and you're saying to yourself, they're saying to themselves, I can't stop my body from shaking. So, like there is a form of energy entering a body, at least that you're consciously aware of that, and you have involuntary movements of one type or another, as well as emotional ones. But you feel it's good, is what they say. It's good. That's like a Kundalini awakening that people have, and it fits in with the quantum concepts of interconnectedness, entanglement, non-locality, and what is unique. So many people in our study use the same term, holographic, or this one. We are one with them. I feel an interconnectedness with the universe, and an unconditional love. We hear that all the time from people who have NDEs. We everybody's. Not everybody, but that's information that most people are well aware of. That unconditional love, which is different than conditional love that we experience in the 3D world. If there is a fourth and fifth D, I don't know if there is alternate dimensions. It's only 2017. I think we all understand that. It's easy to say that, of course, but what was it? 60, something like a little over 66 years before we first flew a plane in Kitty Hawk, New Jersey, and when we first stepped foot on the moon, 66 years. Let's focus attention now, I think, in the area of consciousness, parapsychology, obviously UFOs, among other phenomena that may be interrelated. That's
exactly.
all.
And that is the thing. We need to look at all of this. And I'm going to say this. We have made a huge mistake, and I've had pretty heated discussions with quote unquote ufologists or investigators that will say, well, we just need to look at this UFO phenomenon. We can't have any of the parapsychology, any of this other paranormal stuff involved because it devalues what we're doing. And I just sit there with my mouth hanging open. I mean, are you kidding?
Well, yeah, and you're right. I concur. It's parapsychology is regarded as a pseudoscience for the most part, because it deals in what? Because there's no explanation for the effects seen. And people have different opinions about consciousness in the brain, so the medical community doesn't jump in. To them, consciousness is being in a coma or not, or dead or not. That's consciousness to them. You talk to a philosopher, you get a whole entirely different perspective. No, guess what? What's the right answer? That's what I want to know. So I wrote a book on it. I don't know. I not claiming I have an answer, but this is a diversity of opinions about consciousness alone, let alone the alteration of perception and meaning of life and psychospiritual attributes and characteristics that range so widely. I mean, we asked 600 questions, so I don't want to bore your listeners with the details of the changes here again in empathy and love, trust, a concern for the ecological matters, and I'm sorry for the redundancy for people tuning in. We're seeing over 85% of individuals who interact with this phenomenon have profound psychospiritual positive changes. And indeed, some certainly are negative. Let's not dismiss that. More support, as I've said 3 times already, for these individuals are needed. At least we should increase awareness on the part of the public and psychological community.
So I have to ask you, I mean, with this negative aspect of things, I mean, do you feel that there is something perhaps that is demonic? I mean, where do you feel that negativity is coming from, or is it associated with a particular type of being?
Wow. Great.
That was a loaded question.
Yeah, it was a big gun, I'll tell you. That was a good one. Some people claim to have the answer. I can't make a claim to have the answer. It wouldn't surprise me, is my answer. That's all. Who the heck knows? I don't know. Could be.
Exactly.
It sounds silly. It sounds silly, but it could be. People talk about spirit negative beings that can attach to you, and people that undergo this energy transference. That certain people who are able to channel energy from wherever they claim they're channeling it from changes you, can energize you, as I mentioned earlier. Before I forget, if you don't mind, the person who actually performed this, remarkably powerful, and she's the real deal. She did agree to share her email. If you want to experience her, go right ahead. She might charge you. It's Australian bucks. It might cost you $100. I don't know what her fee is, and I'm not making a dime off it. I'm just saying, if you're curious and you're willing to spend a little bit, this is her name. This is her email address, and she gave me permission verbally today to share it with your listeners. If you don't mind, I'm sorry for
please. No, please.
Her name is Marie Batchelor. Marie Batchelor, actually a former doctor, GP and OBGYN. She gave it up once she received this energy when she visited a tomb in India. I know, it sounds woo-woo, I know, but this is her story, and I've seen her work, and I'm baffled. Marie Batchelor, BATCHELORMAREE, Batchelor Marie, at gmail.com. She's on Australia time. I think that's 16 hours away. Let me tell you, I was so lucky coming back from Sydney to LA before I, came into Florida. What a trip, people in the audience who took that 25 hours of, flight and waiting time. Yeah, it's fun. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. But I was lucky. I just got to share this with your audience. I was sitting in the middle 5 seats, and nobody was sitting there. I was able to lie down. I was lucky, but it was almost an empty plane. But let's move on from there. Okay. No, I didn't see a UFO traveling over the Pacific Ocean. But look, Marie Batchelor Marie Batcher is quite unique because for the first time I was able to see with my own eyes something I truly can't explain other than the orange orbs. I saw a form of, I don't know what you call it, energy consciousness in action where I can fairly conclude was not induced through hypnosis. Or a power of suggestion or fantasy proneness on the part of the recipient. I saw behavior that beyond surprised me. I was awestruck by it, and I think she possibly is the real deal. If she's performing some kind of trick or magic, man, she's good. She's good at it. She should make it a career, and that's why I suggested if you're curious to have a Kundalini awakening. Some people are more susceptible than others. Some people can't for whatever vibrational frequency reason, so they contend. Again, this is what I hear. I'm not proclaiming any of this, but this is interesting. That's all I'm saying.
It is fascinating.
And I saw it in action. I saw it in action. So give it a shot if you're interested.
And I will say that I absolutely think I've always been fascinated. I've always studied this. I've always thought, especially being a Pilates and yoga instructor, I mean, this is important. And being somebody who's spiritual, I mean, the Kundalini, it's very powerful, and it can, if you are not kind of diligent about your practice and you don't have a support system, your Kundalini energy can rise too quickly, and that really can cause a lot of psychological damage. And so I think you almost need to have a mentor there, just like when you're going through this process of seeing something anomalous. You need to you look for people to help you put this into perspective, and you look for that support system. And so it's all fascinating, and it probably is all connected. And I will definitely find her. This is very, very cool.
Can I just say something to that? You are right on. You are absolutely correct. This is, in other words, I think what you're saying is that this is a type of Kundalini experience. And if it happens too suddenly, a person is not prepared for it and not counseled, as you said, very, very eloquently.
Thank you.
It can be a crisis. People think they're going crazy. People are enjoying it at the same time. It's a paradoxical experience that they have that is quite real to them, and people around them do see them change. They're different, generally in a positive way, but the person does often have anxiety. They're confused by their change of state. I've seen this woman, and I'm sure there's more like her, that somehow are able to induce this in people. You know, whether it's hypnosis or not, whatever it is, it's changing them. And bottom line, whatever it is, a UFO, NDE, on and on, it's changing people's lives dramatically and generally for the positive. And that's what intrigues me. Because, as someone who's been an academician and so-called sensory neuroscience, and I am fascinated by this in general, and there's an interrelationship at that level too. And there's researchers, Hammerhoff and Penrose, who contend that they believe that there's a holographic representation that exists within the brain that behaves in a non-local manner, where brain neurons contain what he calls microtubules that are the source of consciousness or the soul. And they do believe that this serves as the basis for a possible continuation of consciousness after death. Now, obviously, theoretical, and it's their opinion. Some people ascribe to it, and of course, many don't. But the theory exists out there, and that's all I'd like for your audience to be aware of, that we see the parallel here, too, to the human body and the brain at the neuronal level to begin with. After all, what is reality to begin with? Reality is what? The light photons emanating from the Big Bang 14 billion years ago that are simply bouncing off physical objects, stimulating your retina, then converting it to a 3D image that forms on the visual cortex in your cerebellum. That's what reality is? photon energy from the Big Bang bouncing off the things and entering your brain? Maybe it is. But we know, obviously, that animals can perceive energy that we can't, the dark pitch whistle, of course. We know that. So, energy does exist. That's not perceivable by our five senses. That's well established fact, of course. But that fact alone, nevertheless, implies that energy can exist that we cannot perceive. Bingo. Okay, well, maybe could possibly in certain forms of intelligence, whatever that may be, whatever intelligence it may have, exist that we can't see. It's a simple question. It's easy to ask it, prove it. Prove it one way or another. A lot of people ascribe to it. A lot of people want to put you away for a few months, or up your whatever medication. But you know how it goes. Everybody has their own opinion. And all I say is keep an open mind. I'd like to be objective. I don't buy into all of this with 100% certainty. Let me emphasize that, please. All I want to do is stimulate conversation, debate with some rationale, which some people may or may not agree with. That's fine. I respect your opinion greatly. And I just encourage a nice, cordial conversation over a nice wine or something like that. I think it would be a blast.
That's great. And I think that, and I want to just say this, I think that there's a real danger that now we're seeing the dumbing down of society. And I think that we could go either way. I think that it is wonderful that there's so many people out there that are awakening to find deeper meaning and to move away from all of these things that are distracting us from developing into the beings that we could be. And I think we just need to be aware of that. I don't know if this is intentional, but there is a dumbing down of society to pull us away from our gifts.
And it's unfortunate, what I'm trying to think more, Johnny, a person who had an NDE, she gives lectures. Is it Alexis, Anita Morjani? Many of your listeners know of the name. Look at her video tube, a lecture that she gave in Sedona. She said, she had an NDE, went through the whole thing, and and she says the lesson that she learned is to love oneself. That was her spiritual awakening from the NDE. Yeah, love your family, obviously, of course, but the most important thing is to love yourself. If you can love yourself, whatever that means, maybe everyone has their own criteria for what that means, in a non-egotistical way, then you're able to love others more unconditionally, better, with more caring, respect, and all that. But the key is to love yourself. So, some proclaim, and this one NDEer did. She's a quite stimulating individual. She's in the process of dying hours away, and she had NDE, and then she was cured. They couldn't find cancer in her body, weeks after that. It was impossible. There are stories like this. Maybe it can be explained. Maybe it can be explained, or maybe not. I don't know. It's just interesting. Quite interesting.
Interesting. And I have to ask a question that one of our listeners, D. Cook, asked. Do you think that aliens are walking among us? Before show close.
I got to plead the fifth. I have no basis to know. They may be, they may not be. People, about 55% of our population of 2,000 people say that are human looking. That's what they say, as well as the Greys, obviously, insectoid reptilians, of course, et cetera, but in lesser percentage. So if that's true, then yeah, they can be walking with us. Are they? I wish I knew. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. No way to know.
Exactly. And I want to say thank you so much. I knew this was going to be incredibly exciting, and I knew that I would have to have you back on the show and then just pick your brain, buy you a glass of wine or a couple, and just sit and chat when I see you at UFO Congress in a couple weeks. This will be fun.
We're gonna have a blast.
I know we are.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. And I just want to say that you were an excellent host. It's been an absolute pleasure. The 2 hours absolutely flew. I feel your energy. And that, can't put a word on that. I don't want to get too new agey, but you're a great host, and I greatly appreciate your question.
You made You made my whole month, my week, my year, actually just, my life. Thank you.
Buy me a beer for.
I'll buy you a beer. I'll slip you 20 under the table.
I don't know how this works. Maybe we buy each other a beer.
Exactly.
We'll have a good
dear.
We'll have a good talk. That's the main thing.
I know we will. I'm excited. And I want to tell everyone that you can go to the UFOphenomenon.com to get Dr. Davis's book, The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe, to read his articles, and also check out experiencer.org to learn more about FREE. Again, this is an excellent organization. They are progressive. They have published a lot of valuable information, and I fully believe that we can move this forward and do groundbreaking research and work together to do that. So thank you so much for being here. I love it.
Oh, Erica, it's been an absolute pleasure. This hasn't been work at all for me. Thank you so much.
Yes, have a wonderful weekend. I want to thank all of you for listening. I'm Erica Lukes. Be safe and stick around for a fabulous night of Ladies on KCOR. I will talk to you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.